guys, BBi here. I want to stop and say thanks for tuning in and checking out whatever the video is about that's about ready to come up next. If you could take a minute and hit subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoy what you've seen here, make sure to hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate your support. Anyhow, guys, all that aside, let's get on with the show.
I can't stay for a bunch of rounds, John Deere, but I can stay for one or two key rounds, no problem. I think I just got more than with you, though, to be honest with you. Don't just send away to my buddy John Deere. BBi got down. Hey, big man. Hey, big man, where's the other key, y'all? Are you ready? You know how they go. God damn it, Harry.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Straight 8.
Just block my radio clean up. Good morning, time wave to you too, my brother. Mr. Ebony King, your friend in the corner, got down. Here we go again, a repeat of the other day. I said, here we go again, a repeat of the other day. Ebony fired down. Says, good morning, time wave to you, Mr. BBi. Rolled up there, right up in there. Here comes John Deere. Oh, BBi, John Deere. But then Ebony walked him right back down again. Now, I'm just wondering, are you two going to sing Kumbaya and hold hands all day long and say, oh, pass a friendly five to my buddy, pass a friendly five back to my buddy? You guys going to start rolling some smack up to this radio into the northwest? BBi, get nosy, brother. The king is on the throne, the king is on the throne, the king is on the throne. Ebony, I could hear John Deere, but he was in your background quite a little bit. Just telling you what I heard roll up in this radio on 27.025 here today. The king is on his throne. BBi got down. I'm gonna let the king off his throne.
On the pump house.
I'm gonna knock the king down, I'm gonna knock the king down, I'm gonna knock that king down. John Deere fired down with you, Ebony. He owned about 2/3 of that comment. He goes, I'm gonna knock that king off his throne, I'm gonna knock that king down. Then he rolled right up over the top there, Ebony, and he said, oh, waving it right back to you, BBi, with that good sounding audio. It's flip-flopping back and forth between the two of you guys, that's for sure. As I sit atop my throne in this electric kingdom in the northwest corner, BBi, rocking on. Yeah, John, one more time. You boys are neck and neck. John Deere said he's going to do it one more time. John Deere said he's going to do it one more time. And Ebony, you rolled up and you said, will you take care of? And you appreciated it all, and then he gave me all the fine wishes. You guys were neck and neck. John Deere rolled up on front, and once again, Ebony King come out on front again on towards the tail end. Of course, the gate is rolling, so you guys can make the judge for yourself, but that's what I heard coming into my two ear holes in my head. Two bad men in the south, shooting it out, coming to BBi's radio, got down. Yeah, here one more time. BBi rode it from when he keyed down till he come up. BBi got down.
Oh, there's Simcoes too.
John Deere did not key, everybody. So we're going to call a fight. We're going to call it off. John Deere did not key. The king is on the throne. The king is on the throne. It's a king thing. I heard you, homie. You bumped it right up in here, right over the top, but then, of course, there was nobody really keying with you in the background. I got to make that clear. John Deere did not key. But Ebony King, I appreciate you, brother. John Deere, I appreciate you, too. Your friend in the corner, cruising little mud duck Watts, is going to go back reading this mail. I appreciate you, gentlemen. You have a good day.
He's not calling me.
John Deere, did you say you did key? Oh boy, if you did key, brother, I did not hear you in there whatsoever.
So I shouldn't have said
He
that.
was way in the back on that one there, Deputy King. You come right up over the top, but I think he was saying he did key. I said, I think he said he did key on that last key, so where I said you were standing by yourself. But I did not hear him come up in this radio whatsoever. Now this last key, he was way down in the mud. But you were out in front, Ebony, but I could hear him just underneath your audio. BBi in the Northwest, rolling it back.
See, he didn't run from the fight. He come right back to it. Gotta respect that.
John Deere, he's locking you up, brother. I mean, he's locking you straight up. He said you did key, you are keying it. I think that's what I pulled out of that. Well, I mean, you said you're going to pull straight back, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put everything in cool down mode over here. I got to get back over here and get back on the 21 real quick. John Deere and Ebony King, BBi in the Northwest, gone. John Deere, good job. John Deere, good job on this video. But I am sure that John Deere King and the king is on the throne. No. Check it out, Mr. BBi. Just got that. John Deere, Ebony says, good job. Hey, John Deere, Ebony says, good job. But he is still the king, he's still the king, he's still the king. Gentlemen, I'm pulling straight back. But I did get it all engaged, so I'll send it to whoever wants to hear it. BBi in the Northwest is going to go back 10-7. Now seriously, I got to get on the work phone. I'll see you. Click.
I'll miss my friend. I'll miss my friend.
He was just saying, no, he was saying that make that night. See you on one thing, brother. One swinging a two, I just put my foot in his ass. That's all I got to say about that. Hello, Mr. John Deere, once again this afternoon. My friend John Deere just rolled up into my receive switchblade. And I sat here and I slow keyed it, and I just wanted to hear you finish what you had to say. He said it wasn't like that. He wasn't talking like that. His Johnson wasn't meant to be taken in that way. Now, man, when I hear the word Johnson, somebody's laying something down. You know what I'm saying? It's okay. This 1-1 swinging to 2 mud duck station just took my John Holmes. halfway across the nation. Mr. John Deere, I started to date again, brother. What's going on in the Carolinas? BBi being nosy. Come on. Let's see what happens. You said it's a Monday, switch rate. You got that hammer down, BBi. Hey, BBi, John Deere said you got that hammer down. I don't know what you done done. You done done, man. It's working. Just keeping it real. Just keeping it real. You rolled up in my radio and you took sole control of my radio. Now my brother Switchblade, we were just sitting here talking for about 20 minutes. As soon as you keyed up, so I cut his radio clean off, JD. I'm just talking at it, and I'm telling you what I'm hearing. Man, you come up in here and you'll beat me up with that big old John Deere beam like there's no tomorrow. I think Mother Nature just got a little bit better because I ain't changed nothing over here, JD. I just turned it all back on. John Deere, your friend BBi, cruising this undermodulated, tapping off a Wilson 1000 with a K40 as a director and a fire stick out in front of that. But I got it so hot the fire stick, the little booty blew off the end of the antenna. What you think? JD, BBi, be a nosy, break. I can't do the work and know what I've done. Mobile, and I gotta move my antenna a little bit farther down your way, JD. Hold on a second. We'll go out there and crank it over here in just a minute. I'll move my house. John Deere, BBi, come on. Hey, bad boy, Switchblade trying to stand his ground. Hey, bad boy, Switchblade, wolf fight. That's low key. That's low key, they got it all. Hey, BBi, I'm thinking my right there, right back, right middle cap, baby. You got it on. Hey, bad boy, you got it on because you got it going on. How about it, bad boy, Switchblade, super. You said you slow keyed. Hey, John Deere, you said you slow keyed, but you got it all and you heard it all. Just rolling it right back. BBi, mud ducking got down. Hey, bad boy, you got some background seconds. Hey, bad boy, bad boy. You got that thing down. To your bad boy, Switchblade, that blade, 12 down the same cookie cutter, bye. Sure, you bad boy. Switchblade, JD, I want to pull this mud duck out of the way and get out of the middle of the road. Tell everybody in the northwest corner the green light's on, because I got some company and I got to go. John Deere, Switchblade. Hey, Switchblade, tell bad boy I just come along and smack him upside the head. I see you. BBi, back out. I got company, I got to go. I see you, bye. That's all I got to say about that. I'll see you later. Blue Dog, bye. Bye. John Deere, 138, loading, Hey, 138, hey, 138, John Deere, the wave is gone. Now you got the hammer down. You're 10 feet over everybody. You're a mighty fine one. I realize that. Don't know the power of the dark side. Just absolutely watch what you got there, Mama. I heard my homeboy DOG out there in Cali roll up in the side of this antenna. And so I had to turn my house down his way, and I think I stole your conversation. Apologize about that. And I know I'm wiping out Witch Doctor too. But if you got a sloppy copy on my buddy, or Witch Doctor, you tell him BBi said hello. Mr. 413, around the San Paulo. Your homie in the Northwest got down. Hello to your BBi, John Deere. Hey, BBi in the corner, Mr. John Deere, bumping it down, waving 4-1. BBi, BBi, BBi. Oh, John Deere getting down. Bye, bye, bye. Down because you come out. Well, 413, I gotta tell you, homie, you're on the gate. I got Blue Dog reading us in. And I got you on the gate also, my friend. But I don't want to screw with your Mother Nature if you're rolling it into Witch Doctor's hair. I don't want to knock him down off his soapbox too hard. He's a good old boy, and I like him a lot, so. Anyhow, my brother, you be good, 413. I appreciate you rolling that nickel along for me down to my homie there, double Witch Doctor D. 413 on the pile. Your friend in the corner sliding back into the bushes. I'll see you, click.
In there.
Hey, BBi, you talking in the Carolina too? Hey, BBi, while you looking on the San Paulo, you talking in the Carolina. Take care, BBi. Mr. John Deere's gone. Bye, bye, bye. Hey, John Deere, I'm trying to talk in your neighborhood. Hello, John Deere, Blue Star, West Side is gone. Right back, Blue Star, John Deere, the wave is gone. Where are you, John Deere? Why you smoking? Why you on that tractor, Blue Star gone? It's a refugee box out of Miami. Come on.
It's weird, there's bird cam way out here.
That's OC 413. Oh, John Deere, you told me I'm transmitting in the Carolinas too. Man, I pump out them videos just so guys can see what their boxes are doing before they leave here. Man, I'm glad you said that. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate the support. And I'm just out here trying to help people, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is. A burden, but I do it because it's fun. Mr. 413, you have a good afternoon. And I'm going to roll it back over here to John Deere real quick. Good afternoon, wave to my friend, Mr. John Deere out of Carolinas. Roll that dicky down. Hello to my friend, Mr. John Deere out of Carolinas. Your friend in the corner, Mr. BBi, cruising my duck watch with the way at you. UFO and BBi. Lord knows you got the hammer down. I want to do a video gate. Hey, BBi, John Deere said, I'm going to do a video gate. Lord knows you got that hammer down, looking good, sounding good in the Carolinas. Got it going on over here. Hey, BBi, no pain, no strain. No pain, no strain. You got it going on in the Carolinas. Keep on with it, keep it on. Sounding some kind of good. Mr. BBi. BBi in your northwest corner. Oh, John Deere, man, this old Cobra 2000. It's a 45 modified. Hey, BBi. Oh, John Deere's quiet. Bye, bye, bye. 55 dBs in the... Oh, I said 55 dBs in the corner, JD. With a 45 modified Cobra 2000. Almost 50 dBs over in the corner, brother. You are transmitting yourself. Oh, John Deere, I gotta slide out of here, man. I just heard our buddy Brewdog in there, and I had to get a little bit of Mother Nature with him. John Deere, the bad man in the corner, sitting atop my throne at my electric kingdom. I don't know, Craco, and hell to do with you. Get out of here with your bad self. I'll see you. Click. Oh, to you, Mr. BBi, mighty fine, mighty kind. Got it going on over here. I don't know if I'm friends with you on Facebook or not, but I got the video gate rolling. I'm going to post it somewhere, and maybe you'll get it on that end. Hey, BBi, I don't know what you are doing over here. I can't read my scale no more. You got me off the scale. BBi in the corner. What you mean by sir? John D in the Carolina gone. BBi, bye. Don't know the power of the dark side. L.D. Moss. God no. Let's go. We're out here from Washington. Big hammer. Big hammer. Big hammer. That's all I got to say. Hey, BBi, John Deere's gone. What language are you speaking? Is that you? Yeah, come on. Falcon, is that you? Is that you? Hello? Yes, right here, come on. It's that thing. You never done our copy. Let's get it. I'm going to sit over and test out the whole going on. And right about now, it's all about you. You got my radio. Can you kill me from the shooting?
Conway's audio is so far back there.
Oh, 413 got my ears pinned now, big brother. I didn't catch all that, no doubt about that. You tell my homeboy Machete, my tag from Nevada, that I just said hello. We'll see you. Bye-bye. Hey, BBi, you still got my radio. Hey, BBi, listen at me real good. You still got my radio with a whole lot of yo-yo. BBi, John Deere gone. Bye-bye. I can hear him too. Hey, BBi, I got 3 DBs on 413 in my back door. BBi, John Deere's gone. Take him with you, 413, Blue Star gone. Put your Moble 5 back in the city, John Deere. Oh, I know I still got your radio. If I've got his, I know I've got yours. Man, you transmit. You're right, you got it by at least 5 dBs. But I appreciate that 413. You said you going 10-7. I'm not going to hold you rolling no more nickels. John Deere, you're a bad man. You know it. Your friend in the corner back out. Let's go. Big hammer. Big hammer. Hey, BBi. Big hammer. I'll see you. Bye. Big hammer. Big hammer. Big hammer. I'll see you. Bye. Man, you sound wonderful, man. Good to hear you on. Good to hear you on so long, too. Hey, 413, just... I hear you, 102. Hey, 102, I hear you, man, but them big boys got them great big old malls in the middle of the road. No doubt about it. That 413 and that John Deere got me sold up. Hey, 102, Blue Star, Long Beach Cow, let's go. I'm looking at you right there. Hey, Blue Star, I put my antenna on you. What you think, Blue Star, break up? 60 dBs. Get your mind. Now, Blue Star, worldwide lead killer on the west side. John Deere, I don't hear number John Deere. The Carolinas, Blue Star, gone. 14 Blue Star. Hey, 14 Blue Star. Hello, weed killer. Hey, Blue Star. 60 dB, know what you said. He said, weed killer, GW John Deere, don't worry about him. Hello, weed killer, Blue Star, I'm right back. Terrorize right on, John Deere, terrorize right on. I didn't come out here to fight, I just came out here to say, hey, I want to John Deere. Yo, all weed killer on the west side, I'm getting on down. By Blue Star, you say you didn't come out here to fight, you just came to wait for one. And you're doing just that. Take care. Hey, Blue Star, weed killer, John Deere's gone. Bye. All right there, John Deere, man. I just, I want to know if I got that old fucking blue star on hold there, buddy. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, you do. Yes, sir. Yes, you do. Bye, bye, bye. Bye, John Deere. Hey, John Deere. Bye, 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 bye. 14. Bye, bye, bye. We kill. I'm gone. Okay. You got that, lady. You're certainly doing that, man. Good to hear you on now. It's good to hear you on, Keith. Hey, 102 Watergate City. Take care. Blue Star, west side is gone. Oh, man. Well, you know how much work this is, man. It's a lot of work.
Fucking machete.
Hey, 413, put on your letter, man. You're a bad man. You're a bad man. I'm glad I got to see it today. I haven't seen it in a while. Hey, 413, I'm glad I got to see it. I haven't seen it in a while, like you're doing it like this. 413 on the palm, machete's 10-7, bye, bye, bye. Yes, well, if you can't see it no more, you need to go on a diet. Hey, Uncle buddy. Hey, Tag. I know you can hear me. Man, machete, your friend in the corner, back out. Got it all, no doubt about it, man. Just make sure your stuff doesn't come out the panels, man. 413, that's what you're sure. 138, no, there you go. 138, got your pants like, man.
See, what had happened there is me and John Deere were screwing around the day before. We were on the phone, and we had, like stellar Mother Nature going on between the two of us. And we were sitting there screwing around. I was like, dude, okay, so I'm going to put 10,000 out there, and what I want you to do is put about 10,000 out there. And he goes, okay, so we put about 10,000 out there, and we were seeing what we were hitting each other at, right? I said, well, let's go on up to 20. And so we went up to 20, and I wanted to see what the needle would do. And we'd spent, I don't know, probably 2 hours sitting around a bowl playing like that the day before, right? And, man. I was wanting to go screw with machete something fierce that day. I was more interested in that. But, that was the last time I got to talk to my friend John Deere, and that will be the last time I ever get to talk to my friend John Deere. We lost him today. He died of a massive heart attack. Yep. Standing out here all day just twiddly dinking around with stuff. Laying in the house watching TV, just being all bummed out. And something inside me said, get up and go build. So here I sit. So, what we're doing here is I took this particular amplifier in on trade, and as we can all see, it is a splatigated piece of garbage. But the reason I took it in on trade is because it was full of Toshibas. Okay. Well, why am I bothering to unsolder this junk? I'm not going to reuse any of it. I'll reuse the cores for something, but maybe a choke. But so I took it in for Toshibas, and I just need to build, and I don't care what the outcome is of this. And I don't, it's my day. Today is Sunday. It's my day. It's my time. You got to have days where you're not at everybody's beck and call and disposal on the phone 24/7. So what I've been doing is I've been taking Sundays and making it for the family. And well, they're all up sleeping. I thought I'd come out here and just waste some energy and listen to Gates. Garbage. Trust me, the world is not going to miss this amplifier. But I'm going to take its guts. I'm going to build something great with it. Something beautiful. I don't know quite what it's going to look like yet. Man, I had some fun with him. I can't find it. I have this gate someplace of him where me and number one son were fighting going to him. And he come back and he goes, man, number one son, I don't know what happened to you. But every single time BBi unkeys, you pop up like you got springs on your feet. God, I wish I could find that gate. I got it someplace, but I don't know how I have it labeled. I swore I did a video gate of that too. I don't feel like spending 45 minutes or an hour standing in front of my computer just to hear that self-serving thing. So I was just like, But I gotta have the hard file around here someplace. This is how I've always coped with things, guys, is I just work. I work a lot. You know, sleep like 4 or 5 hours a day, if that. Some days more. Like today, I really spoiled myself. I slept for a whole total of 8. I didn't feel very good when I woke up, though. A little stiff. So, needless to say, I'm hurting today. I feel bad. One of the great legends of the bowl. Old John Deere. I've been listening to him ever since I was a little kid. Try and go back there this summer so I could go meet some of these guys. Which is necessary, you know. It is. Well, the traveling bit's necessary, and getting to meet these guys is necessary. How are you held down? Is it hot glue or fingernail polish? These are stole out of an X-Force or something. Eh. Screw it. Never seen such a... Well, I take that back. As Barry said, I've never seen such a hodgepodge together thing, but I'm not gonna lie, I've seen way worse than this. But I took it in on trade for the transistors that were in it. Nah. Don't save mounting hardware, BBi. Throw it in the F-it bucket. The only reason I save the cabinet and I don't take and throw it in the trash can is I've had about 5 or 6 times where I say kids, goddamn older or younger than everybody else. I've had several guys come to me and ask me if they can start building, and do I happen to have the componentry, you know, the cabinets or something stupid cheap that they can just get. And well, them bones have been picked clean, I'm here to tell you, but there's still a couple laying around. And that's what'll happen with this cabinet, is I'll just hold on to it. Somebody will eventually come along saying they need one. I'll be like, oh, I got one. Here, you can just have it. So I got all these lift blower fans that was, you know, as I went up in stages, you know, first I went out and I bought a, you know, a 3000 that turned out to be, had a lot of problems in it, so I had to go in and completely rebuild it. When I mean completely rebuild it is I literally took every single part out of the box, threw about 90% of it away, and then started completely over. So the only thing that was left over was the cabinet. And the cabinet, I built a 3000 and a 6000 out of that cabinet. Right? So when I got another cabinet and I turned it into a, first it started out as a 10, and then we slid that thing to the side and ended up selling it. Learned a bunch of stuff from that. It's almost a brand new relay too. Ended up learning a bunch of stuff from that and burning up a bunch of parts. I sold the cabinet for dirt cheap. Didn't reuse any of those components, sold those off too dirt cheap. And then I started on the Vader project. And then I went on with the scale on that thing. You learn as you go, part of this game. And that comes straight up out of a radio too. 4-pin mic jack. Held in there with pink fingernail polish. That's freaking awesome. I'm so bummed out I don't get to talk to my buddy no more. The South is going to have a big hole in it. Please don't tell me they glued this son of a bitch down. They did not. Oh, I know what they did. Well, BBi hopes you take all the hardware out of the cabinet, dummy. Is this goddamn glued up? That's how we take care of that. Well, somebody loved this amp intently. And hopefully they're not sitting out there right now going, I know that amplifier, I built that, or I know. Love this thing intensely, and here I'm sitting there ripping it apart. Still a very good hunk of metal. I'll clean it up, use it for something. I'll have some bridge rectifiers on it and use it as a heat dissipator for some this big friggin' iron core supply thing I'm going to build with multiple transformers. For a cat. Somebody will have a use for that. Seriously? These last two are held in by pop rivets. And not even good ones. Oh, let's see, I gotta have some good tech around here that allow me to get that off real fast. Old dirty never cools. I got a bucket that I throw this ferrite because I don't know what it is. It's like most of this stuff over here, I'll throw it in the unknown bucket. Use it for a choke or something on something, but I can't use it in a customer's component or cabinet or, pardon me, a customer's amplifier, so it's still worth money. It's ferrite. Somebody out there is going to need this cabinet. Guarantee it. You'll find a good home. Heatsink will find a good home. Damn, I'm gonna miss him. Damn, I'm gonna miss him. Well, not friggin' great. Oh, this day just keeps getting better. Apparently the internal microphone on my camcorder here has decided it's gonna die. I think I'm gonna have to call up the production company. Ring, 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 ring. Hello, Mr. Black Productions. Hey, Mr. Black Productions, is BBi over here, down here on the actual amplifier production floor. All production has come to a stop because the camera is completely freaking busted. The mount on the bottom side of the camera is just about worn out. The mount on the top for the Rogue microphone, which looks like a squirrel fucking a hamster, is all about worn out. If you guys think about how much time this camera has spent moving around this real estate in the palm of my hand for your viewing pleasure, it's unbelievable. And it's not surprising to me that this nice camera that I bought 5 and 7 months ago, that was 5 and 7 months ago, almost 6 years ago now, is having a rough time of it. It's seen. I've been through like 5 different batteries now. I've always kept 2 around here, right? But I'm down to like 5. They get memory built up on them because I refuse to have a cord on this thing. The other thing that I'm probably gonna have to replace soon is the tripod. Oh, the joys of making amplifier porn. So I just want to hook the thing up, and I'm sitting there talking to it, and I noticed that on the little display over here, the thing was not moving. So I had to go and get a different mic set up here. So I apologize that the audio changed. I'm not going to mess with this until later. Okay, so what we're doing now is, I don't care how you try and crack the cookie. The story is that we're going to stack a ton of transistors right down a row of heat sinks. Just right down this, let's say, these 3 fins. Okay? And really how it works out is there's a ton of pressure on just one fin. Now the upside is our heat sink bed is very thick. So the heat's going to wick out and it bubbles down. So if you could watch it on a FLIR as the heat starts to penetrate the heat sink, it's actually across about 3 or 4 fins. But what we got to do is we got to make the best of our situation that we have at hand. Now, we have one lid, or one hole in our lid. So we all know what that means. Skookum high flow fan. But we've got this fixed opening at the back. So if we go and we put this in here, I want you to look at that. You're going to have these big channels down the side that the air can literally wrap around the outside of the heatsink and then recollimate on the back and totally skip over doing its job of going down the touchy-feely fins that allow the heat to transfer over to the air molecules, right? So we want to prevent that. So I've done phenolic board in the past. This is just the next solution. And what this does is it sits even with the back of the cabinet. And so it's not perfectly airtight. We don't want that. I want a little bit of room for flex and a little bit of room of give. I want the board to be able to move, but I still have to block off about 80-90% of the air, right? This is going to work great. See that? It's all completely blocked off. Now, with every positive comes a negative. I've been on this kick here lately where I want to hide all my wires, right? I want to just hide all my wires and have stuff sneak down and be underneath the board and out of sight, out of mind, and then just have it magically show up over here on the front side of the cabinet and hooked up the wires and it does its job. I don't know if I want to go through the hassle of trying to bury the wires because this whole side of this cabinet is going to be very busy. Wait until you see what I put in here. This isn't going to be no like, oh, just slapping 8 transistors in this thing. Like I told you guys in the previous segment, my therapy is building. And if it's not building this, then it's building something else. It's building guns, or it's off building intricate shit out of aluminum or whatever. I love to make things with my hands. So, couldn't sleep, thinking about the loss of my buddy, which, okay, he's gone, so it's time to pick the man boobies up off the table and let's start moving forward. It's going to work. Now the question that I have to ask myself is, do I want to do the man trick, where I take the board out and I build it out of the cabinet, or do I want to do it old school style? And we're not talking like a goat skin. We're talking we're going to go and do the full Monty latex deal to it. Do I want to do it with it in the cabinet? I always love building them in the cabinet, but for ease and economic sake, as far as time, I had a very wise man once tell me his handle was Jacket, which stood for Yellow Jacket. Well, you know, BBi, I always found it much easier to build them outside of the cabinet. It saves you a lot of time. That man did not lie to me one bit. Not at all. I was really amazed. Take it out of the cabinets a whole lot quicker. I want to do this old school. I really do, and I don't know why. Brain says do it old school. So I guess I'm going to do it old school. I don't know what I find about this so fascinating, but I always have. I don't know if it's just the intricacies of putting all the pieces and the parts together, or I don't know. But I freaking am in love with this business. And I have tough days. Like last Monday was rough. Last Monday I had several people call me with a whole lot of problems that weren't my problems, but they kind of became my problems because these people were a little upset. And it really had nothing to do with me. It's that they had outside influences giving them pressure that was giving them a hard time. And it ended up getting backed up to me. And because I had their amp. And so, you know, when you have a bad day, you think about the things that make you feel good, and that's what you want to go play with. And you can't go play with your amp because, well, it's over here because you broke it. And from the outside looking in, I totally get it that I am the slowest thing on earth. I get that. I mean, I only work at this 7 days a week. It just can't be quick enough for some people. And some of this stuff, you can't find paperwork on it anymore. Yeah, can't find parts for it anymore. And when you're pretty much one of the last few of the Mohicans left around that's working on it, I mean, you run into something you don't quite grasp or you don't understand, who are you going to call? The Ghostbusters? I mean, straight up, you got to sit there and mentally think your way through the problem. So, you have your up and your downs. Every once in a while you lose your friends in this hobby because everybody's so much older than you are, and you can't seem to find anybody in your generation that's even remotely interested in this. But you stick with it because something inside of you says you love it, which I do. So the reason that we're putting the PL259s in the cabinet first is because they are going to dictate the placement of the oversized relay I like to use. See, I learned early in the game that the relay, this one little, what can be a $3 part or a $15 part, can cost you hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of dollars if it's too small, right? So I like to go bigger than what the minimum size is, because to me, there's a lot of punishment that takes place at that relay. Okay, so the reason I was trimming these ears back is because now we got these tabs on here, right? And this has to be able to drop straight in to make it underneath those tabs. I love the problem solving of this job. Love it. Which that will work perfectly. But when you use an oversized relay that you'd like to solder down to the cabinet, you want to make sure that it is not positioned too far to the left, too far to the right, or too far forward. So I need it to go back and be equally spaced between the two. I think that's going to work. This is where the beginning and the end of the story is, literally. RF coming in the beginning of the story, RF coming out output side of the story. Now what I was playing around with was doing it like this, which is going to free up a lot of vital space, because it gets very hectic in this back corner because of the layout of the cabinet. So I don't like doing 8 pills in the small of a box. See, I've got my splitter, my distribution network and everything, or my splitter network that's got to sit over here, my distribution network that's got to sit over here. So it gets a little full, right? What do I want to do? That'd be cool. That's a fun idea. It's a lot more work though. But it could come up like this. So you can mount a relay flat, or you can mount it where it hangs like this. You cannot mount it like it hangs like this. Not in this application. You can do it in other applications, but not in this amp. What we've found is that the spring tension at the back of the relay, gravity is supporting it. You see what I'm saying? So you don't know when the guy on the other end ends up with the box, if he's just going to grab by the power cables and he's going to smack it around inside his truck, you know, whack it down on a table or something, you don't know. Where gravity is not supporting the armature here, it's actually fighting the armature's movement. And so mechanical disadvantage because of gravity, mechanical disadvantage because of gravity for the most part, and a mechanical disadvantage because of gravity, right? So I've had failures because of orientation mounts like that, and it really comes into play with some of these bigger relays. Now, especially in the mobile, these have the ability to knock themselves off. Not as much as this, because it's pretty secure the way that armature is mounted in there, but this sucker is just held down by this little spring. So you got to be careful how you orientate your relays. It really doesn't start to matter anymore below this. Like when you get down to these little 5 amp jobbers like this, there's so little metal mass, there's not enough energy inertia inside the relay to make it. But I have had failures where the relay came back, and not with this particular style, but with another style where the relay came back and I looked at it and went, oh, and I took the lid off, went ding ding, put the armature back on it. And I went right back to working. So the traditional way would be to mount it like this. Really would. That's going to make this corner very hectic. Or and then I move it all up. Let me think about this. Well, let's see what we got. Like I was saying in that previous video, I used all these lift fans to cool off all these different boxes I've built. And as I've gotten bigger, I've had to go to bigger and bigger fans. Got a gain of 30. Sweet. I've had to go to bigger and bigger fans. Well, I've held on to them. Well, just in the last 48 hours, I've had 2 friends come to me and say, man, I don't know how I'm going to do this for my 5,000. I'm like, well, you're going to take this fan right here and attach it to the top of your 5,000 deck. It's saying diode short. It wouldn't surprise me if half of these things are popped. Gain of 29. You take this fan right here, and you're going to do this and this and this with it. Two of them 4 fans. I mean, like one of them was $270 something. But a friend can use it, you know. So I'm just like, here, you can, you know, do this or this with it, whatever you need. I'd rather be that guy than be the dude that's got to make a penny off of every flippin' thing. So sometimes it pays to save parts. In certain applications you can't reuse components. 28. So 30, 29, 28, 28. You can't reuse components. Like I refuse to reuse transformers because you don't know what they are. So how do you have a quality standard if you're using reused parts? It's like these 2 big, not big, but these 2 amps I'm getting ready to build, the twins. It was a small fortune to buy parts that weren't pools for this amp. I mean, I guess these boxes are literally twice what they would normally cost. 29. Just simply because the cost of new componentry. It's like there's guys out there building 3000s for $2,000 and $3,000. How's that even possible? 25. Unless they're using a bunch of reused stuff. $23. 31. I might have got lucky. Cool. Well, that turned out better than I thought it would. Now, that these are non-red dots makes them more valuable. And the fact that these are currently selling for $109 a piece at the moment, these little transistors, makes them incredibly valuable, right? These are used, so that knocks back their value a little bit, but you're not going to be able to buy new non-red dot transistors anymore. It just doesn't happen. So now the value comes back up again. These are perfectly good. They're tested. They're tested by somebody that we all trust, right? Publicly reviewed, tested. They're working. So now what we got to do is we got to clean them up, straighten all the tabs and the ears out on them, and make them, you know, reusable. The other thing I got to do is I got to clean them, and then I got to lay them. I have this piece of glass that I lay the transistor on. Now you got to remember that the material makeup that's in the foot, the difference between the non-red dot and the red dot, the only thing that makes them any different is the material make of this foot. This has beryllium oxide in it, which if we turn this into a powder form and ingest it into our body, you're going to get cancer. Just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Yeah, there's some exposure limits and some other variables that play into that, but for the most part, if you ingest this into your body in a dust format, you're going to get cancer. That's the only difference between the red dots and the non-red dots. But because guys like to have their transistors be all the same lot, even though it doesn't make any difference electrically whatsoever, as long as the gains of the transistors are the same, that's the only thing that you have to really pay close attention to. But I got to make sure that the transistor's flat, because if they're cupped, like the guy that originally bought these, because at one time these were $10, $15 a piece components, right? If you put too much thermal compound underneath this transistor, the transistor foot will, instead of being straight, it'll bow. It'll bubble up towards the middle. So the transistor, instead of it sitting flat on the heatsink, it's going to sit like this, which causes a problem. Which, before I knew any better, I was actually sanding the transistors. We don't do that anymore. I built a jig that allows us to press on this thing to make the transistor flat again. After we came to the knowledge, the brilliant knowledge, that I was most likely going to end up killing myself with lung cancer because of this, and not probably because of all the smoking I've done in my life, this is a guaranteed cancer. Guaranteed. So it's not anything to be messed around with. That's the reason they had to come up with a non-red dot transistor, so they could sell them through California, because California said, no, you're not going to import them, you're not going to be able to do anything with them, period. And so RF Parts, being the exclusive importer into the United States, which is based out of California and was planning on selling them from California, was the reason that they had to go and make over that. And I think beryllium got banned all over the place for the most part. I don't want to put all that pressure down on Merritt and them boys down there. That would be bad. So we'll just say it got banned everywhere, and that's the reason that we have the red dots, which in my opinion actually has a little bit better material makeup than these, but this is what everybody's fond after. So tomato. This is what I'm going to use. Okay, let's get the transistors cleaned up. Well, we're going to jump back in here. We've come a little bit further since the last video. I sat out here last night and just listened to Gates and chilled. I think I kind of worked through my sadness over losing my friend, so we're almost done. Now it's time to translate and put this inside the cabinet and start fabricating all the other stuff that I want to put into here. It's kind of cool, this capacitor bank. It's like art. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to drop this beautiful piece of art into the cabinet. Before I do that, I got to mount up all my switches and all the other little controls for it, because it's going to be a little crowded over here. This thing's going to be a little crowded box. That's all there is to it. It's going to be very full. So, move the bias down here off the top of the input transformers. I mean, it's got all the bells and whistles in it as far as going to be able to kick ass. So we're going to bias it in the whole 9 yards, obviously, and yep, now just make it so it can drink from the faucet. So this has got to go into that cabinet. That's our next step. And I got up at, like, you know, it's now what, 8:30 at night, and I started answering the phone and returning phone calls at I think 2:30 this afternoon, and I just now got off the phone. Anyhow, this is where we left off last. This is last night, and I've only got two things left I've got to mount. It's the input and output tuning capacitors, and then I got to vinyl it. That's where we're at. And I was standing out here this morning struggling, mentally struggling with where and how I was going to do this. And I couldn't come up with a way that I was happy with. So I just told myself, you know what, stop, come back to it tomorrow. Remember, you guys, this amp started as a very cathartic way of me to be able to work through the loss of my friend. I just needed to sit down and work on something that was going to be for me. I've decided I'm going to get rid of this. I don't want this. It's built. This doesn't have an owner. I put this up on Facebook earlier today, well, before I went to bed this morning. And everybody's really excited about this. Look at how small this amp is. It's an 8-pill. It's like an oversized 2x4 cabinet that this is in. It's going to be really neat. So, yeah. And if you can't tell, I'm kind of scooching over it. It's like I'm moving on. My time for feelings about this are over, and we're going to move forward. It's radio. Radio just moves forward. But, man, this thing turned out so pretty. Can't wait to see how this little compact design runs. The 16-pill enclosure is still superior because of the vastly bigger amount of heatsink and the more volume of air that you can move through it. But this thing, I honestly feel is going to really kick some ass. So, okay, let me, irons are all heated up. Let me grab the tripod. We'll do a little bit of build and talk here as we go. Man, I really got to buy a new camera. I think we talked about that a couple days ago in the same segment. So I was playing with the idea that I'd mount the tubes down here like this, and I'm just gonna put the other one like in here someplace, mount it down in here. So I built the 32 pill, the copper mine, And I had a very good friend of mine, Mr. Jefferson. You guys are familiar with him. Believe me when I tell you you're familiar with this guy. You might not be familiar with him, but you're definitely familiar with some of the stuff he's got. Mr. Jefferson has a 32 pill I built him. But he calls me on the phone. We're just sitting there BSing. And he goes, man, because I got to tell you the problem with your boxes now, bud. He goes, they're so elaborate and they're so well put together that the problem is that the only one in the world that can work on them is you. I said, no, what are you talking about? He goes, they're too complex. Like if you pop a pill on it, how big of a pain in the ass is it to actually get in there and work on it? Well, very valid point. And then my buddy Brian at Truck CB Sales, he's seen a picture of this and he goes, man, that thing sure is pretty, but it'd sure be a bitch if you pop a pill to get in there and work on it. You're right. So the way this is set up is all you got to do is unsolder this coax and unsolder here, and this whole plate goes, and take the remote jack out. This whole plate just tilts up. Then you have full access to everything underneath it. You put it back down, resolder your coax, and put your remote back in it. You're good to go. Trying to think ahead just a little bit. Trying to make sure I got the thing covered. So now I went to bed this morning, and I thought, man, I don't like how, I was planning on putting the tubes orientated in here somehow, which would have been neat, but that would have been yet another whole layer of shit that you've got to take off and move and modify, right? I didn't want to do that. So this is our output tuning tube, and this is our input tuning tube, which is trimmed down for a reason. It's not going to take as much capacitance to make the chooch for the chotch for the chotch for the dollies on this thing. Great, slide it out, and then you're going to screw it all up, putting it back together. There we go, goes in the back side. I think what I'm going to do, it kind of came to me, I was standing there thinking about it. I'm going to take, and I'm going to put this one like so, and this one like so, and I think I'm going to mount them like this. So I'll solder this tube to this tube, and then solder this tube down with some copper reinforcement straps on it and elevate it a little bit so I can adjust the capacitance tubes in and out both sides. And I think that'll work just swimmingly. Not gonna lie, I think that's gonna work well. We're gonna need little Bertha, and as I showed in a previous video, I've got little Bertha, and then this is Big Bertha. Speaking of which, I need to plug this in. And then I got John Holmes. Right? So there's kind of an interinium. This is my 100 watt big boy. We've all seen this one before. I mean, we all know where this iron comes from, right? Little boy, little Bertha, Big Bertha. I got Old Reliable here. But then I got John Holmes. And I heated up John Holmes the other day to its fullest potential and refluxed the tip on it and soldered the tip, make sure it's all good to go. I'm struggling to find something that I can use this on. I really am. Man, that's a big damn iron. I don't care who you are, it's just a big damn soldering iron. So I got something else I want to talk to you guys about. This happened this evening. I literally am chilling, talking on the phone. I get this text, and it's this picture of this beautiful, ornate John Deere tractor casket that somebody had painted up. And what it was a buddy of mine sent me that picture and says, man, look at this thing that they're going to put John Deere in. And I looked at that and I went, man, I've seen that before. Moreover, I've seen that damn picture. I was like, wow, either that's got to be commercially made or somebody really was thinking ahead. You know, I thought, no, this doesn't seem right. So I go out on Google and I do a search for this John Deere casket. You'll see it if you do the same search, which some of you might and some of you won't. By the way, we're going to hold these together with Kapton tape because these are going to get really hot, but we've got to be able to solder these things together for this to work. You go type John Deere casket or coffin into Google, you're going to see this beautifully ornately painted casket. It's in all John Deere colors. Okay? Now, you follow a couple of those links that are attached to that casket photo, and you'll very quickly find out that it was some dude back east someplace that had that casket done long before he passed and had it all customed out and blah, 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 blah. And it all leads back to the same Twitter picture. Okay? Pinterest picked the picture up. That's what made it searchable in Google's little search engine. And here we go. And this makes me sad, because that tells me that there's some skis bucket dirtbag out there who desperately wants to have attention. And that's really what it is. Really, really, really wants to have attention. So instead of going and doing something awesome with their own life that would allow them to garner attention or bring true something to them, they decide the quick, easy path is going to be, oh, look, I'm going to go and I'm going to find this casket and I'm going to take this picture and then I'm going to go out and I'm going to claim that I'm involved or I'm in the know or I'm close to the situation. Okay? And then they run out and they start a lie. Well, that lie is hurtful and destructive to people. And it makes me sad when I see people do this. Like I don't want to say I was on the race team because I wasn't. I was just able to be present. My dad was a crew chief on a Formula One airplane race team one year, or a couple of years actually. And I, having a very crappy year in my life, my father was kind enough to let me come down and be associated with those guys and hang out. I'd gone down and was on part of another race team one other year, another airplane crew that he was involved with. And the race scene was neat. It's neat down there. It's cool. But I don't want to say I was on the team, but I was there. I was there with the family and everybody, and I knew everybody, and it was cool. I was just there with the family. No way associated with it. Well, Gary goes out and starts his lap. Now, he was like the fastest airplane on Earth forever, right? Goes out and starts his lap, and then there's this horrific accident that takes place. It ends up costing Gary his life. What all happened, like right in front of the grandstands, right there in front of all of us, right? And his widow, just immediately collapses in a ball of tears because that's what would happen. She's grieving. She just literally watched her husband die. And this mimey skis bag piece of shit scumbucket that was kind of associated with the little group of guys, he didn't have a whole lot, and he was standing in front of me when this all went down. Now, I had been with him for probably, was aware of his presence, and he was in the proximity of me, not like we were hanging out or anything, for about probably 30 minutes before the race even started. And we all watched Gary go. No one came up and talked to this guy. He just... This accident takes place. Wife's in tears. And this mother... son of a bitch, after about 20 minutes of watching her carry on and sob and be sad, makes the decision in his little brain, I want to pretend like I'm involved more than I am. And I want to make myself look important. And so he decides he's going to tell a lie. I watched him literally walk from standing by himself over to her and says to the widow, I just heard from the race officials, Gary's okay. Don't worry, they're down there working on him. I'll let you know if I hear anything further. Gary's wife goes, oh my God, he's alive? It's a miracle. Oh, thank God. Let me know if you hear anything else. That one little minute of being empowered cost this guy a lot. Because I've seen this all go down. Now, I'm not a passive, meek person at all. Anybody that ever has met me would tell you. BBi is not that guy. So I stood there and waited for the attention to shift off of him, and he walked over next to the hangers off away from the area where we were all standing. He's standing there smoking a cigarette. I said, man, we're not having a good day today, and this guy's not helping the situation any. So I walked over and I grabbed that guy by the back of his collar and drug him around behind the back of the hangers and had a very motivated chat with him, physically. And went on to explain to him that he was not to speak unless he was actually spoken to, and that he needed to mind his own business. And he goes, well, how do you know? I said, man, I've seen you since you came out of the hangar down there an hour and a half ago. I say, ain't nobody come up and talk to you. So don't do that. You're not helping anybody, and you're actually going to cause her pain. I can't stand mimey, skeezy people like that. I cannot stand scumbuckets like that. They can't go do anything on their own, or they've got to create drama to look cool. And so when I have ever had anybody in my life that has come along and decided that they needed to create drama, either say that they were someplace or seen something or something and something and something, so they can look like they're the man, I immediately get rid of them from my life. Because they cause nothing but problems and they hurt people. Now, the reason that comes up is because of a picture of a casket that somebody was passing around the internet today, saying, oh my God, look at how beautiful this casket is. And then we go and do a simple Google search and fact check it and find out it's all BS. Guys, don't be that way. Just be yourself. I've never understood that. Don't try to pretend that you're not or are something or not something or whatever. Don't. Just be you. Strongly encourage you just to be you. Just to be you. You get a lot farther in this world, I guarantee it. So, on another note, I can see this thing finished in my head. This has been very helpful for me to be able to just sit out here and do this. And you guys have gotten to join along in the show. Just be you. God, I couldn't believe that dude at Reno. It's like, what did you think was gonna... I just don't get people. Sometimes. Okay, so I'm going to clean these up on the sander real quick. And the idea is that we're going to solder these two tubes together, like so. Then we're going to solder these little gussets on here, like so. And then in turn, make sure I got this orientated the right way. I do. This is output. We're going to solder that like this. So if we do have to disassemble it, the whole thing comes out, and then the whole thing can come back down. Give me a minute. I'm going to go run me some power tools. Okay, so what I did is I made these two little supports, straightened them all up, sanded them all out, so now everything's exactly the same. Took all the sharp and hard edges off everything. I think this will work perfectly. So I want to orientate this so that these are soldered like so. That'll be cool. That'll be really cool. So the moral of the story is don't try to claim to be something that you're not, right? That's where we were at when I just left us. Now, I've never met John Deere. He was my friend on the radio. I want to be really clear about that. I have not had the opportunity to travel and meet most of these guys that I have admired or known or spoke to all these years on the radio. And I think it'd be very helpful for me if I did that and actually go out and meet most of these dudes. Well, it takes time, money, energy, and then the ability to be able to leave here. Like to zip over to Seattle or something, that's no big deal, but Now we're talking about traveling to Georgia and the other side of the United States and so on. That's a different bag of sauce. I got to plan that out, right? And I have not had that opportunity yet to go to one of these bigger major breaks. So I can't be like all distraught, oh, my best friend. Not that. You have very large personalities that are involved in the radio community, especially in 6. And you got to think there's certain people, there's only a few certain key people that have really got quick jive skills that like can really do that are fun to talk to, right? So like I could roll something to John Deere. Like my favorite example of this would be like me and Switchblade talking back and forth about the one time, if you go and you Google it, there's a YouTube video of me and Switchblade talking smack back and forth to each other, and I was talking about how I've got myself a single wide trailer and the poop tank's full on it, and I've got 3 different style of tires on it, and a truck with pickup, 19 different colors of body panels on it. A lot of the guys on the radio don't have that skill set. They want to, but they don't have that skill set. So there's a lot of this Roger right on, oh man, you're hitting me way over the top, 30 dB over. That's fun, but it's not as much fun as being able to talk serious smack, right? It's just not. I'm a quick-witted guy, and look, John Deere was always a friend of me on the radio. We spoke on the phone 100,000 times, but that does not make him like my best friend or somebody. I'm just sad because we've lost a huge radio personality, and I want to be very clear. I was very upset about that a couple days ago. I was like, man, no way. And so I thought I would just sit here and I would build something and get myself back to where I was feeling happy about the radio again. Very clear about that. Because people can make stories, mountains out of molehills on the radio, and they're out of the radio community like I've never seen before. Oh. And people's opinions, god dang, man. Worse than little teenage girls. It's crazy. So this started out as being something cathartic for myself, and it's turned into something different, which is basically me getting to create something pretty and beautiful that I think is going to work well. And now I'm going to go and I'm going to pass that on to somebody else, the new owner, which I think is neat. Okay, so we're going to solder you to you. And you to you. That's going to look stellar. Okay. Sometimes I feel like Doc Brown in Back to the Future. And Marty McFly, where they're standing there at the shopping center, and he goes, you built a time machine out of a DeLorean? Doc Brown's like, well, you got to do it with some style, kind of thing. Them long since past slobbering down parts. This is my canvas, and these are my paintbrushes, my soldering irons. So we're making something fun. So I want to make sure these are perfectly straight, because copper wobble shows up, and like, you can kind of see where that kind of curled a little bit from when I cut it. This tape, it's called Kapton tape. It's developed by 3M. And has a very low dielectric principles to it, otherwise it's a very, very poor conductor. But it has a very high temperature breakdown. Hence the reason I like to use it on these output tubes. And it kind of seems like it'll stick to just damn near about anything. It was developed so we could go to the moon. It's also a spin-off project from capacitors. So if you take let's say this high voltage cap, okay? And you cut the lid off and you take this apart and you pull it out, you're going to find that there's a layer of this material with aluminum or some other metal substrate behind it. This insulator this material is basically the same thing that's in here inside this cap, except this has got adhesive on it. There's some small chemical differences between the makeup of this material, because it's got a dye in it and a few other things, versus the basic plastic that's inside this cap. This has got more characteristics to it, closer to like static cling wrapping paper. But anyhow, it came to my attention when I started working in high voltage construction of things, and I wanted to find an adhesive tape that wasn't hot glue or wasn't duct tape, that was legit, like it wouldn't break down underneath heat. The glue that they put on this is unbelievable stuff. This is called Kapton, and I mean, we're literally putting a 700 watt iron right next to it, and it's not melting. So, not saying that it won't melt, because it will, because it's made of oil, it's plastic. The other tape that you guys have seen me start using in probably the last dozen videos or so, but you don't even realize you're seeing me use it, is something that I picked up from one of the larger auto body shops that I do business with at the other business that I'm involved in, or the other two businesses I'm involved in. Is this tape here. It's commonly referred to as pinstripers tape for airbrushing and painting in automotive business. It's the exact same thing as the Kapton, believe it or not. Has the same chemical make at the base, but this has got more adhesive to it. This has a little bit of elasticity to it too. There's a little bit more give in the plastic, where this has zero. Made you look, by the way. So, so we were literally soldering right up next to that tape. And these tubes are warm. They're 80, 90 degrees, but this tape isn't breaking down. So now, I'm not going to lie. Eventually, you guys can clearly see how hard I'm pressing on this with the soldering iron, right? Eventually, it will break down and you can almost melt through it there. But see, it didn't melt. That was just the breaking. Think about that for a second. Some cool tape. It's like $2 on Amazon. There, just gave away another little trade secret for everybody to play with. All right, let's get this thing mounted up. Getting ahead of myself. So I don't know if you guys know how these are constructed. There's two brass tubes, basically, one inside of the other, and that's really all capacitance is a measurement of conductivity between two surfaces that are passing in close proximity to each other. Usually, and most commonly used, as a measurement of couplings of one conductive surface to a coupling to ground. But it's basically two surfaces that are passing by each other, and the electrical principle, the two properties of the two pieces of metal being in close proximity, and the electrons, how they can move from one to the other. Okay, it's capacitance, basically. This is Teflon, right? And when I first came up in the game, back to the Kapton tape, by the way. When I first come up in the game, I was desperately trying to find another way to hold these tubes in place, right? And it very quickly dawned on me, I was watching people, they'd put hot glue on these, or they would fix, like, Carl at X-Force, his solution was to take the tube, lay it down on the board. I don't know if you got this from Dave Mead or where it came from, but first place I took note of it was they would take the tube and solder their tube down to the board and then make the jumper fixed and on a stiff wire. That keeps it from moving, right? Well, I want to be able to, it's like a knob to me. I want to be able to adjust and play with everything, right? So I wanted to find something that wouldn't back down. So I don't care what kind of tape it is. If you put 3M tape in there or duct tape or hot glue or whatever, eventually there's going to be enough heat soak into the tube to where the adhesive is going to back off. So needing to insulate some things on some other projects that aren't radio related, I work on all kinds of crazy shit all the time. We arrived at Kapton tape. Okay. And I thought, man, that Kapton tape would work perfect because it can adhere perfectly to the brass on the outside of the tube, and then adhere perfectly to the brass on the inside of the tube. And what you'll notice is I'll get this all adjusted. So we'll say that the Teflon shim is out and the tube is out like this far. I take that pinstripe tape and I go around, very tightly around the outside, which pinches the Teflon down on this center tube. and locks it in place so it can't go back in. And then I take the cap on and I come over the outside and I attach it to the top part of the brass. And I always cut it about this much longer. Why? Because my finger can only go inside the tube that far. I'll take and I'll fold the cap-on tape over and bring it back in. So now it's locked going both directions. Can't go out because of the tensile strength of the cap-on this way, but can't go in because of the oversize of the pinstripe tape. Neither one of them will break down because of heat, at least not up to a couple hundred degrees, like 300 or 400 or 500, as I just showed with a 700-degree soldering iron. Translation, if your amp gets that hot, you're going to have way other bigger problems than this thing coming out of tune. That's how we got there. So, what I just tinned in was the inside of these tubes. And what I want to do is I want to add my tuning wires to the inside of these tubes before I go and I slap them inside the box. Learn something new every day, don't we? At least I do. I think that's the main reason I'm so interested in this hobby, is that it seems like the layers of things that you can learn and teach yourself are endless. But I'm sure that's the same thing with any higher functioning hobby and, well, I guess higher functioning sports. The nuanced details of things are just never ending. I can't believe I told the Gary Hubler life lesson to you guys. God, I wanted to kill that guy. There was a little bit of emotion going on that day, you know what I mean? And I thought, man, how childish and chicken shit is it of this clown to capitalize on that for 2 seconds? 2 seconds of coolness. And then it to be so hurtful. I was like, oh man, I wanted to murder him, but I thought, nope, can't do that here because, you know, you got to think with your bigger brain. Number one, don't want to embarrass my dad. Number two, don't want to embarrass the team. Number three, don't want to cause any more drama or attention. But I'm here to tell you, me and him had a little energetic talk, and he proceeded to go find his little 13 or 14-year-old girl that was wandering around like she was a lost, broken home, and gathered up her shit, and she left. They left. Which I think was best for everybody. In retrospect, hindsight. Okay. There's literally about $1.35 here and about $1.10 here in wire, and I'm probably going to end up using about that much. But to make it visually and aesthetically pleasing, I got to have these long leads. All right, let's slap this in the box. That's going to look cool. Now the fan's going to sit somewhere in this area. We're going to use a high flow fan, which has got me a little worried about little train whistle effect that might take place. So it's playing with, do I want to shift it over this way or this way? No, I want to do right down the middle. It's our solder work on the bottom. Pretty. No one will ever see it. Except you and me. Just the two of us. Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay.
Yes, master.
Okay. this square? It is. All right. Here it goes. Jeez, can you say I was a welder in a previous life? Even got the solder work to look like a set of dimes we laid down. That's pretty. Okay, so we're done. I'm actually done. I can't believe I'm done. So the moral of the story that we're learning from all of this is that my radio buddy passed, and I'm sad that I don't get to talk to him anymore. But I am worked my way through it, and this was my way of doing it. So in the end result, the radio world gets themselves a beautiful little 8-pill. Yay me. My internal microphone started working again. Yay me. So we'll start here. Zoom in on this. Zooming in. It's a 1,000 watt slug in peak, 1,000 watt in average, and a 5 watt slug in reverse back from the Bird 10,000 watt dummy load. I know, shocker, but I still have to show it in every video, or people will like lose their minds. Little children will freaking start crying. Dogs and cats will fall from the sky, and the world will come to an end. Okay. Now, we're going to start out with a 2950. 25, 30 watts of drive, right? About 700 watts. With a whole whopping 20 watts of drive. And that's with a pretty substantial dead key going into it, because we're dead keying about 50 watts right now. Now, we all know that my radio, its minimum dead key is about a 1/4 watt. 1/2 watt. Amplifier easily keys and stays latched at a 1/2 watt. Now, why is that important? Because when you're talking sideband, audio, 1, 2, you don't want to have to take a lot of energy to get this relay to fire. So let's turn the sideband switch up. I said, hello, 1, 2, 3, 4. I said, under that old Model T was the place she first showed it to me. It was big and black and she called it her crack, but it looked like a manhole to me. So I pulled out my old power pole and I proceeded to stick it in her black manhole. As she began to scream, I poured on that cream in the color of the old Model T. Okay. back to AM. Let's turn the radio back down. I'm running that 2950, and as you guys know, the 2950, you have to move the variable knob on the front of the 2950 to get the power to come up on sideband. And I normally run it right within this range. So I actually had to reach up here and turn this knob all the way up. Okay, so while we're up there looking at that, let's go up here and look at our input tune. Keep going there, camera operator. Keep it going. It's a 5-watt slug and reverse. Otherwise, a perfectly beautiful input tune. Now, let me hang the mic back up in the rack. And we're going to get back on down here. So now, you know what? I can't do this with the camera in here. I don't care. I don't care what all my buddies say. Let me take the camera off the tripod. Oh, so much better. Okay. Let's start having ourselves a little bit of fun. First, we're going to drive it up with the striker, I would say. Let's go there. So we'll grab the striker mic, or coax connector. Pardon me, I'm stumbling along here. Grab the striker mic connector, or coax connector. Shut this, turn this on. Bloop. All right, turn the amp off. Let's go over here. About 80 watts peak going in. Let's turn the amp on. In the corner, of course. 400 bird. Input tune. Retardedly flat. Front of the radio. Retardedly flat. Alright, so now we're going to graduate. We're going to take that up to 2x. And how this works, as I've covered in about 1,000 videos, that hash mark right there is 1,000 watts, because now this is doubled in its scale. So fully over here is 2,000 watts. 1,000, 12, 14, 16, 18, and then 2,000. Okay. So, with 90 watts of drive, 1,400 watts of output power, which is just about right. So now, we're going to disconnect the striker, and we're going to go to the striker 490, which will push it up just a little bit further. Now we're going to go from 90 watts to about 130, 140 watts easy. Okay, 490's in play. Flip the amp off. Let's come over here and flip on the old girl. And so that makes sense to show drive. I'm going to click that back down to 1x, and now it's reading like a 1,000 watt slug again. So we'll drive it up about 60 more watts. Back up to 2x. Oh, you know what? It helps, BBi, if we turn on the box. So with 120 watts of drive, we're getting on up there to about 1,800 watts, with just the striker driving it. So now, let me set up for the next segment, which is going to be the 2950 hitting the 2-pill. Okay. So now we got the bench 2-pill back in line. Take 2950, we hit the 2-pill. We're in 1,000 watt mode right now. About 250 to 300 watts worth of drive. We're going to turn this on. Flip that up to 2x. So now we're reading like a 2,000 watt slug. About 2,200 peak. So we'll go down to 5x. Let's drive it up a little bit. Let's see here. So now we're reading that middle scale. So the 10's 1,000, 20's 2. About 2100 watts peak. Okay, it's about 220 watts worth of drive. Now, let's hook up derail's radio. Let's see what we get out of it for average power. Max average. Got a little derail radio coax. Hook it up. Grab the mic for it. Make sure our dead key isn't too high, which it is not. Alright. Turn the amp off. Same amount of drive. Remember, we're on a different scale. We're on 5X now. Here we go. 2200, but look at this. Burying it in the corner. So let's go over here, grab our 5-watt slug. Put our 5,000-watt slug down in the hole. Let's see what we get out of it for average power now. 1500 bird. That makes me happy. Well, this thing is working beautifully, I'm here to tell you. Let me put the lid on this thing real quick, because we just put a lot of punishment on it. It needs a little bit of air. Well, here we are. We're done. At the end of the story, it's amp number 3085. It's got 8 Toshibas in it, and as we all just seen, it runs like a raped animal. I mean, it really, really, really runs. I was really quite happy with how this box turned out. Like I said, I initially started out doing this box for me. I was going to build this for me and let you guys enjoy it and watch me build this thing and be like, here you go. But I decided I don't want to keep this thing. I've got enough boxes laying around here. I don't need this amp. And it can go on to another home. It's got about $1,000 worth of Toshibas in it, you guys. Which makes it a very rare amplifier. And the fact that I built it makes it even a little bit more rare. They're going to become very, very few and far between. My production builds. I've got right now, I've got a 16 pill that I got to build in a 24 pill cabinet and a 2x4 driver, matching driver that I've got to finish. And then I've got one coming up for my good buddy 300, which is his 24 pill in a 24 pill cabinet that I'm going to completely remaster and rework for him. But these last production amps, they're going to become very few and far between. I'm not interested in doing this anymore, as far as the building aspect goes. I want to just be a repair shop, and God knows I got enough work over here, and I've got to get focused down on those things. So these new production boxes, it's like this thing here, I've worked on this now for 3 days, right? So it just makes sense. For those of you that watched the video all the way to the very end and been here very patiently waiting for me to say a number value, I'm going to take $1,700 for this box, and the first person that calls me gets it, and I think it's worth every single penny, and I'm pretty sure I'm not going to have a hard time selling it. So, let's see, it's midnight now. It means this thing probably won't actually hit the internet till about 4 or 5. If you call me and I don't answer, just leave a message. I'll get back to you. All calls are returned in the order to which they are received. Very simple. So guys, on that note, I'm out of here. I'm going to go get this off the bench. I've got to do a couple other repairs for a few dudes that have been patiently waiting now about 9 months to get their stuff worked on. I'm going to work on those tonight and tomorrow, and more amplifier porn to come. Guys, thanks for being patient and let me work through my feelings, and I got it out of my system. I'm going to miss my radio buddy, but you know what? People die. Life will move forward. And he was just always a pleasure to talk to, and it made me sad, and I needed to work it out of my system, and I appreciate everybody chilling out with me and watching this go down. So, on that note, gentlemen, my name is BBi, and without a shadow of a doubt, I am the biggest mud duck in Idaho. come check us out, www.bbiamps.com. Come find me on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and of course, right here on the YouTuber. Make sure to click subscribe and hit the notification button. If you like this little dog and pony show that you watched, there's always more of these to come. Remember, guys, I'm not monetized, nor am I one of these other guys that do Patreon. I do all this completely free just because I simply enjoy the hobby. So, just give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed what you've seen. It makes both of us feel better. That's the least we can ask. Guys, I gotta get. Bump, bump. I'll see ya. Bye.